All right, hello Evelings. Welcome to another episode of Aries Gaming Plays EVE Online. This one's called 5 Important EVE Online Fitting Basics. Now, ship fitting is kind of a big deal in this game for me. It's one of the parts of the game that I enjoy the most. And I think that a lot of times fits just get thrown around and people say, just fly this, blah, 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 but you don't necessarily understand why it's good. And if you try to build stuff on your own or fit ships out, then things can go real bad, real fast. As you can tell from my, if you look back through my videos, I have some episodes called Shit Fit Roundups, which are my favorite things. And they basically feature just really bad ship fits that I either don't understand or, just find kind of hilarious. I'm doing myself a little bit of a disservice here because if enough people watch this video and followed my advice, I will have a lot less fodder for shit fit roundups. But those are the games we play, and those are the risks we take here on Aries Gaming. All right, so here's 5 important EVE Online fitting basics. The first basic is, I see this happen quite often, don't mix your guns. What do I mean by that? Okay, so let's take a look in the fitting window. I've got this, this is my VNI here, but we're just going to strip it off in the simulation. Ooh, hey. And then we're going to do something silly with it. We're going to put a heavy neutron blaster on it, and then we're going to put, like, some kind of railgun. All right, now, yes, these are both hybrid turrets, all right? So, they'll both get the bonus from the Galente Cruiser, the 2 medium hybrid turret damage. But the problem is that this thing has an optimal range of 4,500, and this thing has a optimal range of 36 kilometers. All right. So what people do what they think when they do this kind of stuff here, we're going to push one more blaster on, right? They're like, well, I'm kind of a blaster guy, but then if there's something far away, I can shoot it with my railgun, and it'll be all good. And it makes sense. I've talked about this before in my shit fit videos, but like that just makes your ship kind of bad at both things. You want to stick to one or the other range. Now, every faction, has their own range. So, you've got pulse versus beam lasers. So if you put a pulse laser on, and that's a light, whatever, you get the point though, right? Like these are very different kinds of things. Where's the medium beam? There we go. Okay, so 7K versus 29K, like these are very different guns. This one won't be able to hit anything close because it tracks too fast, and this one won't be able to hit anything far away because the optimal is too short. So don't mix your lasers, don't mix your stuff. Also, and this isn't as important, but it's definitely, I see this a lot too. Hang on. Let's go back to railguns for a second. Let's do like the 250s, but let's go in and find all the variations. All right, we're going to put one of these on, one of these on, and one of these on. Now, this is not as bad, right? You can see the optimals are pretty close, 32, 33, 35. These are just different meta versions of this gun, right? So if we look in here, here's the Tech 1, and the meta versions are all underneath it here. Now, the problem with this isn't so much the engage range, because you can see it's all pretty similar between these guns, right? 35, 33, 32, they'll all be hitting about the same thing. The problem is when you get out into the world in the undock, and you can't group them together into one solid bundle of guns. This means you have just tons of like hotkeys to push and tons of like guns to manage. You want to have the same type so that you can group them together and just put them on F1 like a good little F1 monkey, and you can push it. I mean, F1 monkey's a thing for a reason, right? You want to just be able to... Combat is crazy enough as it is. You just want to be able to worry about pressing one button. You don't have to turn on every single gun in order, So... That's the guns thing, all right? Don't mix your guns. Ranges, don't mix your gun types. Just put them all on there at the same time. 99% of the time. Remember, there are no 100% guaranteed rules in EVE Online. And you may have different opinions, but these are mine. And you can't take them away from me. All right, so number 2, don't mix your tank. All right, so let's go back to my buddy. I should just probably leave him simulated and stripped. Sounds illegal, but it's not. Okay, so here's the deal. There are 4 types of tank in this game. Shield tank, armor tank, speed tank, and hull tank. The most common 2 that you're going to be dealing with at first is probably shield tank and armor tank. And so the idea is you don't want to do both because you're going to be using up all your space for your tank, and you won't be able to fit anything else on there. I'm experimenting with meme fits all the time that have dual tank, but that's leave that to the crazy people like me. And instead, you focus on one type of tank. All right. So the armor tanks tend to go in the lows, which leaves your mid slots more open, and your shield tanks go in the mids, which leaves your lows open for more damage and stuff. If you fit a tank in both places, it's just not going to be good. So you can kind of tell based on the ship what kind of tank it wants to have. So if you take a look at like the resists and the overall hit points of each type of thing that ship has, that's kind of what type of shield. Sorry, my gosh, English hard. That's kind of what type of tank it wants to have, right? So we can see on this Vexor Navy issue here that it wants to have an armor tank. That doesn't mean you can't put a shield tank on it. By all means, go ahead and try, and you can experiment around. But it has a ton of armor hit points. The resists in the armor look better. There's just plain more of them, like 130% overall resist versus 110% in the shields. Like, it's just better, right? It also looks like it would take a hull tank pretty well, right? It's got decent structure hit points, and I mean, all hull resists are across the board like this, so that's not weird. But the more hull, the more structure, the more easily you can hull tank it. So, but don't mix your tanks. I have videos called Tank Stravaganza that I think are really useful. I'll probably link them down in the description, and you can watch those as well. They talk about all the different kinds of tanks: passive and active shield, active armor, speed tanking, and also hull tanking. And so there is a fifth kind of tank. It's just straight up DPS tanking. But that's not really a tank. The best defense is a good offense, I guess. So you could try that out too. But don't mix your tank types. Pick one and go with it. Some ships seem to fit better with one type of tank as opposed to another, especially the VNI. Like, I can understand shield tanking a Vexor, but the Vexor Navy issue has this bonus to armor repair amount, and that is so hard to pass up. And it's got such little space for a shield tank and so much space for an armor tank. So, just do your best. Okay, so rule number 3, don't overstabilize your capacitor. All right, I see this all the time. People put like a micro warp drive on here, and they're like, shoot, I'm negative. So they start just going like cap recharger 2. Oh, I'm not quite there yet. I need another one. All right, I'm close again. All right, let's put like an armor repair on here. We'll put like the medium armor. Shoot, I'm negative again. Time for some batteries and all. Let's see how close. Oh, we're better. Okay, now we're gonna put our heavy neutron blasters on this thing because we like blasters around here. And we notice, shoot, we're out of power grid. We're kind of a hot mess already, right? And we also don't have any more mid slots. Like, we used them all up doing batteries and rechargers and things like that, and trying to stay stable. And sometimes I see like, capacitor circuits up the wazoo over here. It's just like triple medium capacitor. You would balk at how many times I've seen this in a fit come through. Triple medium capacitor control circuits. Like, oh, now I'll have battery forever. Yeah, but you can't do anything else. You're missing like lots of space for stuff just using it up on batteries. So I have a video on cap stability that I will also link, and my thoughts and theory on cap stability in most situations, right? Because there are extreme situations where maybe this is a valid build for some kind of application. Again, all the ships are just tools, and everything on it is just a tool. So, you've got options. But just like a regular toolbox, like if you come up against a screw, most of the time you're going to use a screwdriver on it. Maybe not 100% of the time, but like 99% of the time, right? Or maybe the screw is stripped out, and that's the 1% of the time where you get your drill out, and you drill that screw out. Or however you take care of stripped screws. I'm not a construction guy. I'm an EVE Online player, man. So leave me alone. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, there are obviously fringe cases where stuff like this is good. But as far as cap stability goes, and you can watch my full cap stability video for more explanations on this, it is a hilarious rootin' tootin' good time. But my theory is that, especially at least for PvE stuff, you need to be cap stable with your tank mods on. And as long as you can keep your tank mods on in PvE, you are for the most part going to be fine, as long as you're not trying to do content that's way, way too hard for the ship you're flying. So in this instance, if I put on my medium armor rep, and this can include stuff like hardeners too, right? So put on like a bunch of random janky armors, or hardeners or whatever. Oh, shield hardener, no, we don't want that. So even with like this on, right? So that means I can literally cut. Let's see if I can do it with one of those, right? So I can see if I can do it with just 2 of these. And this isn't always the right answer either, right? So you know, I can make this cap stable right now with just a couple of these, and you might even be able to do better than this. I'm just slapdashing things around, right? You might be able to do this with just a medium cap battery or something like that. But make sure you use the least amount of slots you can. And in my opinion, so that's probably better than 2 cap rechargers, right? So we're close. So we just need to put a little bit more on. Okay, as long as you can keep your tank going, that's all the cap stability you need for most PvE stuff. PvP is a little bit of a different story, and high-end PvE stuff is probably a little bit of a different story too if you get newt pressure and things like that. But, you know, be able to keep your tank going. So don't waste slots overstabilizing your cap. Having negative numbers here, especially with your micro warp drive on, you will always be negative. This mod is not meant to be kept on like all the time. You just can't do it. So don't overstabilize. Number 4, let's talk about the items that I see a lot when I'm looking at ship fits, and they're all over the place. They are the following 2 items. This thing and this thing. Now they look the same, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. Okay, so one of them is a reactor control unit. This thing boosts your power core output so that you can... Does it call it power core, or did I read it wrong? Power core. Well, it should say power grid, or at least, you know, you need to know that this means power grid, right? This will give you more fitting space in your power grid. I see these slapped onto fits that I can't imagine actually need them, and I don't understand why people put them on. They do nothing else for you besides make that bigger. I feel like a lot of times this is superseded by the other thing that makes your power core bigger. There are 2 other options for this. The ancillary current router and also the micro auxiliary power core. Well, how do I spell it? I'm going to spell it like that. Okay. So this guy supplements the main power core, providing more power, right? So you've got this option, you've got the reactor control unit, you've got this. I often find myself fitting these guys into the rigs. I feel like this is just a better spot for something to be taken up, because a lot of the stuff down here is very powerful, and if you use a slot on the reactor control, then you lose out on a rig slot. That's just my feelings on it, but I definitely see these reactor controls on fits that don't need them. All right, so we have plenty of power grid. These things all kind of differ. So the reactor control is better on bigger stuff, right? You get a bigger power grid bonus. So I think the reason that a lot of people go wrong with this is they try to put it on stuff that's just too small. This is a thing that's much better used on a larger hull, because it just provides you more bonus. That's it. You put this on a frigate, you're not going to get much power grid. You might not need much, honestly, on a frigate, but so I feel like this gets better the bigger you go onto the battleships and whatnot, but I still don't know if it's worth it. The ancillary current router is also just a straight up output bonus, right? This is 10% versus the 15 of the reactor control. Okay. And the micro auxiliary is just straight bonus, 12, right? So this is better the smaller you are. This is great on frigates, right? Because it's just a flat bonus. And it really sucks on bigger stuff. You know, you want to, it's actually, yeah, it's worse the higher up you go. So make sure you're using the right thing there. The other thing I see slapped all over the place on fits that don't need it is the power diagnostic. And I love the power diagnostic system. I think it's really tempting to put this on everything because it gives you so much of the stuff. Look, power grid bonus, cap recharge rate, shield hit point bonus, capacitor capacity bonus. This thing does everything. Shield recharge rate bonus. This is a great module for a passive shield tank. Don't put this on anything that's not a passive shield tank, please. It doesn't really help as much as you think it does. All right, you're better off. So if you're not running a passive shield and you're like, ooh, but I like the capacitor recharge rate bonus, there are other mods that do better. All right, and the power grid bonus and stuff like that, there are better mods. This is straight up a passive shield module. And I do think it's a good module. In fact, you might even be able to squeak out a decent passive shield fit onto the VNI with this thing. But I see them all over the place in places they definitely don't belong. Right, so let's just put 2 large extenders in that. I mean, we're already at 25. Let's see what happens. 28. See, we're starting to lose. Like, it's not amazing. Ooh, 50 hit points a second. What if we fill up with purgers too? No, not purger 2s. Those are for tryhards. So we can get that's a stupid looking fit. Let's put another one of these on. Oh my gosh, look at the recharge on that. Anyway, sorry, I'm just entertaining myself now. So power diagnostics, reactor cores, micro auxiliary, you got to be careful with your power grid stuff. If you don't need it in order to fit the stuff on there, don't put it on there. I see that all the time. I know my fitting skills are pretty maxed out, but when I look at some of these shit fits that come through, I'm like, even with no fitting skills, there's no way these power diagnostics and reactor cores and all this other stuff needs to be on there. It just doesn't make any sense. And that brings us to what I think is probably the most important of the 5, and I alluded to it earlier, and that is always use meta and above modules. Again, 99% of the time. I just got to cover all my bases so nobody flames me in the comment section, right? Most of the time. There's only one exception that I can think of right now, which is damage controls. Most of the time, the meta modules are better than the Tech 1. And what do I mean when I say meta, right? I have a video on meta modules as well. I'll link that too. And all the relevant videos are going in the description because that's just how you roll on the YouTubes. You got to make a big old chainy web of videos that people can get caught up in for hours. Okay, so what am I even talking about anymore? Oh yeah, always use meta stuff. So how can you tell if something is meta, right? First of all, rigs do not have meta. As far as I know. Let's just stick with our railgun buddies. Okay, we like railguns. If you right click it and you show info and you go to variations, you can see what the metas are. Now they get better as they go down. So that means the best meta is the prototype Gauss gun. Okay. And Tech 1 modules are only to be used for making Tech 2 modules in industry. That's it. Like I said, I can only think of one reason. I think the damage control, if I remember right, the Tech 1 damage control is only like 10,000. And the meta is actually like 2.4 million. So like, yes, this meta module is better than the Tech 1, but not by enough that I think you should probably use it over it. So the compact damage control is the only one I would avoid. But, obviously there's a time and place for the compact version. But not when you're just like building stuff, right? So like, you get the idea, right? So if instead of using the Micro Warp Drive 1, if I use the compact version, which not only is it compact, so it takes up less space, but it's also just faster, right? 1620 with that on. And 1606, like it's not significant, but it's faster. Not only is it compact, but it's also just plain better. And that's true of every meta module. Not only are their stats better than whatever the Tech 1 version is, but you're also getting something else extra on top of that. Compactness, enduringness, restrainedness, for example. So, make sure that when you're fitting up, you use the meta stuff. These guns are not as good as their meta variants. Okay, so, they take up about the same amount of room. I don't know if there's much space save on those. I don't think they're compact. But again, don't use the Tech 1s of like anything, right? So we'll put a compact one of these on, and now we're getting even more space back, right? So let's see what the energized membranes. So they have the compact version, right? So don't use the Tech 1, use the compact. Even if you don't need the space, it's still better. It's got better stats. If we compare the stats between these guys, oops, I can't do it that way. I got to just drag them all over here, right? So not only is this comparable in price to the Tech 1, it's just better. It's 1.5% more resist. It's just better. Even if you don't need the compactness, it's still just better. All right. So, this Vexor's kind of a hot mess. I don't think Vexors have the power grid to handle neutrons. Maybe ions would be better. So let's see if that gives us a little more space back. Yeah, right. And so we can even kind of cut this. And let's go to our damage control. Now there we go. So now we have a decent chunk of tank on this thing. And we can just put like a drone damage. Now again, we got to watch it here because I believe, look, so the drone damage 1 versus the compact one, the price is negligibly different by like 2,000 ISK. And this one's, not only is it compact, it's just plain better. Boom, right? It's just better. Use meta modules whenever you can. Do not use Tech 1. Damage control, I think, is my only exception to that rule. There may be others lurking out there that I don't know about. Oh, one more quick bonus tip, part 6 that I didn't even think of to write down. Here's one. Here are my favorite hidden gems in the game. You can see that I have typed it in quite a few times. It's these guys, these explosive. So take a look at this. Okay, let's look. If you're into Tech 2 stuff, let's compare this to the Shadow Serpentis version. Now, a lot of times Shadow Serpentis stuff is crazy bonkers expensive, right? And so people tend to not even look at it as an option when they're fitting because they're like, oh my God. But let's take a look at these things, all right? The only difference between the Tech 2 explosive membrane and the Shadow Serpentis one is how much CPU it uses. In all other ways, it's a lot better. Plus, it's about 10 times less expensive. So if you can find these, this is my favorite little hidden secret. The other thing is, these guys have almost no requirements. Compared to the Tech 2, which takes hull upgrades 5, this thing takes hull upgrades 3. Not only is it less pricey, less CPU to fit it, it has the same amount of resistances, it also has less requirements to be able to fit it on there. These things are amazing, and they are all over the place. So don't be afraid to search for little gems like that. I don't know how many there are out there, but that one's my favorite. Don't automatically discount Shadow Serpentis stuff because some of it is very cheap for some reason. And I don't know why. Maybe that's just drops a bunch or nobody wants to use it. I don't know why they wouldn't. It's a really nice piece of gear, especially for smaller ships that the CPU fitting space is a big deal. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope that helps you out in your EVE life. And, if you can fit your own ships and understand why they work and do the things they do, then that's good. So keep these 5 rules in mind. Don't mix your guns. Don't mix your tank. Don't overstabilize your cap. Power diagnostics and reactor cores, be careful. I see them all over the place. And always use meta and above, except in some tiny instances. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. If you like and subscribe, you can like this video. You can smash the like button. You can like the smash button. You can subscribe the smash button or smash the subscribe button. You can make julienne fries. Whatever it is you want to do, but I would appreciate your support. As we're rolling into the fall season here when we're going to pick up a lot of new players that need a lot of new help. So I'm hoping this video is helpful at demystifying one of the most mystifying games ever made, EVE Online. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.